We're back. Hello, old friends. It's really good to see you once again. Hello, old friends. It's really good to see you once again. Who can name that artist and name that album and name that year that song was written? First one in the chat gets it. No cheating. No cheating and no Shazam. Anyone? Sentencing same day as the verdict. Amazing. I know. I'm loving Las Vegas. Loving Las Vegas. I can't wait to see if it comes back in orange. It's up. Sound is not up. We will here for it. We are here for it. It is a very busy day. It is a very busy day. Yes, Ned, we have diets in America. We just look at the cupcakes. We don't eat the cupcakes. And then sometimes if you look at the cupcakes, it makes you think you already ate a cupcake and therefore you won't want a cupcake. See what I'm saying? Yar. Claudia C. coming in. Eric Clapton, that is right. Eric Clapton. Claudia C. wins for being first in. John Ross comes in second. I just looked it up. That album came out in 1976. So I'm old. But that's okay. Because like fine wine, I think we get better and smarter the older we get. And I'm sticking to it. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. And they're back. Hello, South Africa. This is a worldwide story. If he puts his arms over his head again, listen, court officers have a very difficult job. Very difficult. I don't know if he's the one that was leaning back like he was on a lazy boy that day. But it is a very difficult job. Yep. Thank you, Boston JD. 1976, Eric Clapton. And that the name of the album was No Reason to Cry. If anybody's interested. And August 1st, 1976 is when that album was released. Very many summers ago. Summers of my youth. It's a great tune, though. Check it out on Spotify later. Oh my gosh, you guys. Guess who sent me a message to thank me for the shout out? Guess who? Our favorite Las Vegas reporter said, thank you so much for the shout out. So many people started commenting about your shout out. I appreciate it so much. And I said, girl, you need more followers and I'm here for it. Jaewon Young. Yes, Jaewon. Wasn't that so sweet of her? Woot woot. Love it. You know what I love? Love women helping other women, and I love women lifting up other women. And that's why when I see the hatred and vitriol, the way other women are trying to tear other women down, makes me really mad. I'm like the jerk. Well, that was a guy who was in here earlier that got his boarding pass for being a jerk. But I don't know. Some people just find it hard to not be a jerk, I guess. I don't know. Whatevs. So it's at J1 News is her Twitter handle, whatever, Breaker19, Breaker1. Remember the handles on CB radios? Anybody remember what their handle was? Breaker19, Breaker19. This is Wild Child. I was Wild Child. Yes, I was. My father had a CB radio in his car, and I would sit in the driveway and talk on the CB radio. It probably was not a very safe thing to do, talking to truckers on the CB radio when you're a teenager, but we didn't have the internet, you guys. We had to find things to do. Corey Dean, thanks for the 5. I guess what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas in this case. Nope. Oh my gosh, Stephanie, thank you so much for the amazing Venmo. Somebody just sent $50 and said, For every trial, you do the best. Can't wait to hear what you have to say about Sandra Birchmore. Oh, Steph, I did it this morning. We did the presser. I read the federal indictment. I've done another show on it. So in the show that I did this morning, I linked to the first show that I did on Sandra Birchmore. For those of you who are not familiar with that case, go get familiar with that case and it will horrify you. But finally, the former police officer that groomed this young girl since she was 13, then got her pregnant with his baby, her death was ruled a suicide. Today, the feds announced an indictment that he is now federally charged with her murder. And it involves the same police entities that invested the Officer John O'Keefe's murder in the Karen Reed case. Canton PD, Massachusetts State Police, and many of the same investigators and players. Stephanie, thank you so much for that. You're so very kind and generous. People are asking me to unblock Turtle Boy. He's not blocked on my channel. I don't know why people would think that he was blocked. There's no beef. I don't even know him. And I appreciate all of his hard work on Karen Reed and every other case that he covers. So he's not blocked. I don't know why people think he's blocked. I talk about Aiden all the time. So tell him that he's not blocked. Sorry, I'm just trying to scarf down like a waffle. I haven't eaten all day. And there, my friends, is the DA. Steve Wolfson of Clark County, Nevada, who we listened to give statements earlier this morning. Phoebe, not true. I bought a CB radio just to drive to LA from Tennessee by myself because I knew they'd help me. And the trucker did when I leaned my new car and had no heat. Super nice man. Is that recently or like you're saying like a long time ago? I didn't block him. I've never blocked him. I mean, I'll go into the back channel and see if he knows how to reach me. He has my email. I'm pretty sure. Although I get 1,000 like crazy emails a day. So if he emailed me and said it was him, I might not have believed him. Oh, he reached out on Twitter to ask us to talk to you, to say unblock him on YouTube? That's crazy. I mean, when this starts and I can go up camera for a minute, I'll look on the back channel and see if he was blocked by accident, but I don't think so. I only block jerks. He's not a jerk. No, thank you. I will. Oh, talking about me. See, I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter because when I first started getting attacked, when I started talking about Karen Reed, those people, those slime, the twits are relentless.
All right,
I was being threatened. They came for my kids. Like, who needs that in their lives? Oh, Susan, thank you for the $50 super. You guys are awesome. You guys are so awesome. I have the most awesome viewers and subs on the planet. I really do. On the YouTube planet. I love you. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Does the state stipulate to the presence of the panel? Yes, Your Honor. And the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. The state may address the jury in your opening statement.
Thank you. There's no...
Good afternoon. We're now moving into the penalty phase of the proceedings. You'll probably be relieved to learn much shorter than the trial phase. And what you'll be asked to do as jurors at this point is decide what the appropriate punishment should be for Mr. Tellis. In Nevada, there are 3 possible punishments for first-degree murder. So as a group and individually, you'll be selecting amongst 3 possible penalties. The least severe penalty for first-degree murder in Nevada is a sentence of 50 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections with parole eligibility after 20 years has been served. That's the least severe sentence. The next sentence is a life sentence in the Nevada Department of Corrections, again with parole eligibility after 20 years. has been served. And the most severe sentence possible in this case is a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. And that sentence means just like it sounds. That would mean Mr. Tellis would spend the rest of his days in the Nevada Department of Corrections. At this point in the proceedings, you will hear from the family of Mr. Gehrman, and you'll hear information from them about how the crime has impacted them.
So we're going to hear from Gehrman's family. We're getting victim impact statements. And I just want to break to say, first of all, I love her look. I love her. I love this attorney a lot. Pamela Weckerly is her name. And she's no glasses today, liking her look, but her collar reminds me of Carly Gregg. If you know, you know.
You'll probably hear information from the defense. Judge Leavitt will give you additional instructions that kind of guide you through the penalty part of the trial. And you can also rely on everything you heard in the first part of the trial, the past 2 weeks, and all of those exhibits. And what you're asked to do as jurors at this point is kind of put everything you know together in conjunction with the additional information you hear this afternoon, and you pick amongst those 3 possible sentences. And we would just ask you to consider everything, and then once you all individually and collectively make a decision, you come back and it's announced in court. We thank you for your attention.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes, thank you. My remarks really, they parallel that of Ms. Weckerly. You have 3 choices. There are 3 options. As we've said previously on multiple occasions, you've been a very attentive jury. Please keep an open mind. Listen to the witnesses. You'll be hearing from 2 families, Mr. Gehrman's family and Mr. Tellis's family. At the close of the evidence, I will be addressing you. I will be asking you to consider what the goals, the purposes of sentencing is, and I'll be asking you to consider a fixed term of 50 years with a minimum parole eligibility of 20. Thank you.
Boss baby's out of it.
Thank you. Your Honor, the state calls Jay Gehrman.
He's disassociated from his body at this point, boss baby.
Raise your right hand, face the clerk.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Sure. Jay Gehrman, Jay German.
May I proceed?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us where yourself and your brother Jeff grew up?
Sure. Our family is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Jeff was born in 1953. I was born in 1959. So we're 6 years apart.
Okay, so he's the older brother.
He is, yeah.
And out of how many siblings?
4.
And so who are the other 2?
My 2 sisters, Julie and Jill.
And they're present in the courtroom as
They
well?
are, yes.
What kind of things did Jeff like to do when he was a kid? Well,
Jeff was into sports. In fact, he taught me most everything I know about sports. He was a good athlete. He excelled in basketball, football, golf, tennis. He was just a natural athlete. And he was a good student.
Where did he end up going to, like college, and where did he study?
Jeff studied at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, where he got his bachelor's degree, and then he got his master's degree in journalism, I believe, at Marquette University.
Okay. And when was it that he came to Las Vegas?
1978.
So quite a while ago.
Yep.
Do you know where he worked prior to working at the Review-Journal? Did he work at the Sun?
Oh, he did. Yeah, when he moved out here, he started working at the Las Vegas Sun.
Okay. So he was a reporter for a number of years here?
Yes, since he moved out here. Yeah, he took the job and drove his car cross country.
Do you remember him ever talking about particular stories or events that were important to him as a reporter?
Well, I'd have to think about that. But I mean, Jeff took seriously every story that he worked on. He really did. I mean, he investigated. He really enjoyed being an investigative reporter. And I mean, there are a lot of stories he worked on. I know the Binion murder trial was a big one in his life, but there are so many.
And what kind of things did you two do as brothers?
Well, first of all, he taught me how to play golf, and he was a good teacher. He really was, and he was a natural. I wasn't, but I think I only beat him one time in my ever. But he so we like to play sports. We would play football and basketball right around the, behind the house. There was a big field where we played football, so I learned how to play. So we did a lot of sports. He took me to my first Milwaukee Brewers game, I think when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. Movies, we went to a lot of movies. I remember that when we were younger. And even when we got a little older, he liked going to movies.
Were you living here in Las Vegas in September of 22?
I was, yes.
Can you tell the members of the jury how you learned about his death?
Yeah, it was a tough night. My sister Julie called me, woke me up. I don't know, it might have been 11 o'clock or so at night, and broke the news to me. It was devastating. And I mean, I certainly didn't sleep at all that night, the rest of the night, but yeah, it was a tough one.
And how do you feel that, like observing your two sisters, how would you say that this event has impacted your sisters and your observations of them?
It's been really hard. I mean, it's been a hard couple of years. I mean, Jeff was our leader. He was the older
Jeff
brother
was our
that we all
leader.
leaned on. And yeah, it was hard for them.
And how about for yourself?
Difficult.
And are there particular events that you've kind of wished you'd been there at, or?
Yeah, I mean, I just retired, and Jeff had no interest in retiring. 2 years ago, he's 69 years old, and he loved what he was doing, and we talked about it. He just wanted to keep writing and investigating. But my goal when moving out here a few years ago was to spend time with the family, and Jeff especially, because we had gotten closer as we got older, and I was hoping that we could spend time playing some golf when we retired, going to movies, going to Raider games and Golden Knights games. I miss all that with him.
Yeah. Your Honor, I believe Mr. Draskovich is stipulating to the admission of 412 and 413.
That is correct.
They're admitted.
Sir, I'm going to put on the overhead states 412. Who are we
Yeah.
looking at there?
Yeah, is that Jeff or is that? Yeah, that's Jeff.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't tell.
the baby
But
pictures.
oh my God, what age that is. But he was a natural athlete. He just loved baseball too. And I mean, I think when he took me to that first Brewers game, he loved it as much as I did. Yeah.
And now I'm going to put on the overhead states 413. Looks like you're a bit older in this picture.
You know when this is from? This is from New Year's Eve, 1980. So December 31st. And I'll tell you, I can't remember if it's 79 or 80, but I was in college.
Times
Jeff had been
Square?
out here, 1 or 2 years. And I flew to from Milwaukee to Las Vegas. It was my first time on an airplane. And this was the first trip that I took of many that would come going forward over the years. But he said, come on out, because I hadn't seen him since he moved out to Milwaukee, since he drove his car out here back in the middle of 1978. And we spent the New Year's Eve on the Strip. It was just a great night. I'll never forget it. And it was so memorable. I mean, and it was just, look how young he was.
Yeah.
So.
Is there anything else you'd like the jury to know about how this crime has impacted yourself and your family?
Well, it's been very stressful over the past couple of years. I wouldn't want anybody to go through this. It was devastating to the family. It really was. We loved him and he loved us. And I mean, a big part of Jeff's life was spending time with the family. He loved the holidays for that very reason. He loved Thanksgiving. Just the whole ritual about it and being with the family. So yeah, it's been, it's going to take a long time, I'm sure, for us to get past this, but we're doing our best and we miss him a lot.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Sharon.
Ugh,
Ms. Moss?
Thank you, sir. I don't have any questions. Thank you for your testimony.
yeah, what could he say?
Michelle Leavitt, today you may step down. You may call the next witness.
The sale of home kills Zwerg.
Boss baby's not crying, but I bet you there's not a dry eye in the rest of that
The
courtroom.
testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
First name is Jill, Jill. Last name is Zwerg, Zwerg.
Thank you very much. Jill, if you could, just for the record, how are you related to Jeff?
I am the youngest sibling, and Jeffrey's the oldest.
Because you're the baby of the family.
Pardon me?
You're the baby of the family?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I want to publish what's already been admitted by stipulation as states 415. Oh, by 415 by stipulation. And I think I have exhibit 414 through 417. I think those all have been admitted by stipulation.
That's correct, John.
That is 415 through 417, correct?
I think 414, 415, 416, and 417. Those four exhibits.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Publishing 415. Okay. So who can you tell us who we're looking at here in all these photographs?
Well, that's the four of us. I'm the little tiny one in the left corner with the same haircut as Jay to my right.
Okay.
And then Jeff is a tall one. And then my sister Julie with the no teeth.
All right. I also now want to show you another exhibit, which is admitted by stipulation as 414. All right, who we're looking at here.
Well, there we are again. I don't know if we were trying to copy that first photo or not, but I believe it's at my niece's, a celebration for my niece. And we all just got together and tried to take a picture together real quick. And it was really kind of fun, actually.
Okay. I'm publishing 416. Who are we looking at here?
That's Uncle Jeff. That's my daughter. I think she's like 3 or 4 months old, and he couldn't wait to fly in and be with her. She is the firstborn of his nieces and nephews.
And what was her name? Or what is her name?
Jessica.
Jessica.
Her name.
And then I'd like to publish 417. What are we looking at?
That is Jeff with my son Connor, who looks pretty much like Jeff, and just they're two peas in a pod. They both into sports and yeah, he just idolized him. He's the only nephew, so he just took to him immediately for that.
I know you've written something, but I do want to ask this. So you've looked at a couple of pictures, at Uncle Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
What was he like as an uncle?
Oh, he was wonderful. He just loved each and every one of them for who they were and accepted them for whatever, they would do quirky little fun things and just loved them with his heart and soul. Absolutely.
Did they grow up here in Las Vegas or somewhere else?
They all grew up here.
Okay, so Jeff was kind of here growing up and watching them be raised. Okay, well, listen, I know that you've written something that you'd like to read. So if you could, why don't you share what you've written, share it with the jury, please.
Okay. So most of you know my brother Jeffrey to be a hard-nosed investigative reporter who went after corruption in our city. He wrote about wrongdoings by mobsters, gaming officials, politicians, corporations, basically anyone who was corrupt, and I don't think they could hide from him. Let me give you a little insight to the man behind the byline of Jeffrey M. Gehrman. Jeff was the eldest sibling of 4, as I stated, and I'm the youngest. There's an 8-year difference between us. He always watched out for me and guided me in my schooling, my work, personal matters. I believe my other siblings, we welcomed his advice, as it usually was on target and gave us a good perspective when we needed it. He always was there for me when I needed him, like a second father for me. And with the age difference, I think that was part of it. After I graduated college, Jeff was very instrumental in helping me acquire my first job here in Las Vegas at the newspaper where he was working. We were very much alike, from our chosen careers to the music we listened to, the food we enjoyed, and going out to happy hours after work. Of course, that was the 80s. That's when it all happened. And that was just a fun thing to do. I remember we were both on the media softball league together, representing the newspaper. It was so much fun, especially when we won games and we would celebrate afterwards. I wasn't going to say this, but now I just feel like I'd like you to hear this. He was the first one I told when I became engaged. We were at Mount Charleston. My now husband proposed to me. It was a Friday night, and we're like, well, now what do we do? He's like, let's go tell Jeff. So we couldn't wait to get back. We knew he'd be at TGI Fridays. He was the first one I told when I got engaged. And he bought a round of champagne for the entire bar. And I'll just never forget that. It was just the most memorable, fun, exciting moment for all of us. I miss reading his stories and seeing his byline. And shopping with him, talking on the phone, and texting with him because he was so bad at texting. Going out for Sunday brunches, having him at our family barbecues and holiday celebrations, especially, as my brother Jay said, at Thanksgiving, where he really ate most of the dark meat and insisted that the TV be on, some type of sporting event, probably football, if I'm not mistaken. These events, these holidays, they'll never be the same without Jeffrey there, ever. He was kind, he was loving, he was loyal, and he was fun. He was a good friend, uncle, brother, and a respected colleague to all who knew him. He had a knack for remembering everyone's birthdays. He never forgot his nieces and nephews' birthdays. He just loved being their uncle. My son is very much like his Uncle Jeff. They shared a mutual passion for the sports, particularly basketball and football, and of course all the Wisconsin teams, as you know, that's where we're from. My daughter also had a special bond with her Uncle Jeff. They shared a lot in common, like both being Virgos and having journalism degrees as well. I remember asking Jeff why he chose to stay here and not be at other major newspapers who frequently recruited him. He said, Jill, this is Las Vegas. This is Sin City. This is where I need to be. Jeff was fearless of all the corrupt people he called out in his reporting of the mobsters, politicians, casino executives, and so on. Professionally, Jeff had many headline stories that made the national news. Some of you may or may not remember this, but they were breaking news, such as the Judge Harry Claiborne impeachment trial. I was here when that happened. To reporting Chicago mobster Tony the Ants Spilotro and his brothers' murders, to being the first to report Liberace's death and his AIDS diagnosis. Those are just a few of the many breaking stories for Jeff, and they all came out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Tony the Ant Spilotro. We talked about that. Mob figures that he reported on who never killed him.
Jeff was a trusted, top-notch journalist and author of the top-rated Lifetime Network television movie made from his book, The Death of a Las Vegas Casino Boss, Murder in Sin City. And that was the Ted Binion murder story. His award-winning podcast, Mobbed Up, The Fight for Las Vegas, is still heard by many. He belonged to a class of journalists that are in a league of their own. Not many reporters out there will ever match his caliber and investigative journalism and storytelling. These past 2 years, it felt like I've been living in a chapter of a murder novel as it unfolds. One that my brother Jeff could have written, entitled Murder in Sin City, Part 2, The Death of a Journalist. I never imagined that Jeff himself would have become a national headline news story for his murder by a cold-blooded elected city official in broad daylight. But in typical Jeff fashion, he was able to have his attacker identified and locked up behind bars after his own murder. Not only did my family lose a wonderful, loving brother and uncle, but the Las Vegas community and the world of journalism lost an amazing investigative reporter and a relentless crusader for justice. To everyone else, Jeffrey M. Gehrman was a dedicated and respected journalist. To me, my family, he was our big brother Jeff and our children's loving uncle. He is so deeply missed every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. You may step down. And you may call your next witness.
Julie Smith.
Another Julie. Okay, we're back on real time.
Please watch your step. Go
main stand, raise your right hand, face
Oh,
closed.
that was Jill. I'm sorry, that was
You
Jill.
solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Julie Smith, Julie, Julie, Smith, Smith.
Ms. Smith, you are the fourth sibling of the Gehrman group.
Yes.
I'm going to show you some pictures. I believe Mr. Draskovich will stipulate to the admission of 418 to 423.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And this one, I think I get what the event is, but I'll have you describe it. This is states 418.
Yes. This is my daughter Lexi's wedding. So it was nice. We were all together as a family. It was in Lake Tahoe, and she's been married for about, I think it's 8 years.
And now I'm going to put on the overhead states 419.
That's Jeff and my daughter Morgan. They were very close.
And this is states 420.
That's Jeff. I don't know when that picture was taken.
That's okay. 421.
Another picture of Jeff. I'm not sure where that was either. My sister dug up some old pictures.
And this is 422. Looks like the kids are a little younger to me in this one.
Oh yeah, that was a celebration for my youngest daughter, Lexi. It was just a fun celebration. Everyone had their beads on and they were happy. And we got a picture of Jeff with his 3 nieces. Jesse's in there, Morgan, Lexi.
And 423.
Oh, that's a picture of Jeffrey when the girls were young. So it's with Morgan and Lexi. They were just on the couch. And of course, there's always a cat in our house. So there's a picture of Daisy with them also.
So it seems like Jeff was a pretty devoted uncle.
Oh my goodness, yes. He loved his nieces. He loved his nephew. He loved just to be around them whenever he could.
And your other siblings have commented that holidays were particularly important for him. Is that your recollection as well?
Very important. We always grew up in our family in Milwaukee when the 4 of us with my mom and dad. And my mom was always kind of the matriarch. She always made a spread for every holiday that we would celebrate. And my sister Jill and Jay, we've continued that with our families.
And have you prepared a statement that you'd like?
I did.
Okay.
That's okay. So as you know, Jeff was my older brother. Everyone in our family pretty much looked up to Jeff. He was our oldest sibling. So he always had a very special place in our hearts for Jeff. He just seemed to be the core of our family since my parents were gone. And we all pretty much migrated because of Jeff living here. So it was nice. We were all together finally. Most people who dealt with Jeff, the journalist, knew him to be no nonsense, a straight shooter, who always searched for the truth. He had a nose for sniffing out the corrupt, the nefarious. We knew him to be those things too, but we were very proud of his many years of service to the community and his numerous accolades as a newspaper reporter. But we also saw the side of Jeff that most people, unfortunately, didn't get to experience. Jeff loved his family. He loved spending time with his nieces and nephews. He was especially close to them. As I said previously, he looked forward to hanging out with them whenever he could, especially during family holidays. Basically, Jeff was a family man. He loved being with his family. Sometimes at those family.
Danielle says journalists take a huge risk reporting on corruption and crime. It takes bees, and it's a profession not for cowards. And Aiden is here now. You've never been blocked, man. So I don't know what happened, but we've been talking about you throughout this trial because we're very worried for you because people are crazy, and we've seen it. And this journalist, who was an investigative journalist of 44 years for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, was killed by this guy who he reported some bad things about, like him having an affair and being a mean boss. They called him Boss Baby. And this guy, Jeff Gehrman, had reported on Tony the Ant Spilatro and other organized crime figures and really dangerous people. And it's always the little ones, the crazy ones that take you out. So just please be safe. Thank you.
Family gatherings, it was kind of the place for Jeff to display his playful and awesome biting sense of humor. He loved sitcoms and was especially fond of 2.5 Men and Seinfeld. He had many of the classic lines committed to memory from those shows, and he would use them often. He liked to have a good time. He was always willing to put together a family dinner. He loved to have breakfast with his friends from the newsroom. He just really enjoyed being with people. He loved sports, especially football. I guess you could say it was almost like an obsession with him. Like his commitment to journalism he took that same approach to his commitment with sports. He could take notes. He knew the stats of players. He pretty much had a near photographic memory, and he could recite almost any score of any game. In another life, Jeff could have been a Las Vegas odds maker. And of course, there was the quirky side of Jeff that we teased him about. His house was meticulous, almost to being a point that it was like a good housekeeping, Better Homes and Garden setup in his house. He was into symmetry. If there was a lamp here on one side of the room, it had to be on the other side. It's kind of interesting. But you can see from these few examples how much Jeff meant to our family and how much we will all miss him. Sorry, I'm the emotional one.
Notice how she's not trashing the defendant at all. Like we see a lot of victim impact statements where they come out and they trash the defendant and they say horrible things and I want you to go away forever and stuff like that. But Aiden, my mods are here and they're texting me and nobody has blocked you. So I don't know what's up with that, but it's not them. YouTube has also been acting really wonky like today and yesterday. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
We're never going to be able to share laughter with him again, discuss sports with him, enjoy a barbecue with him, or admire his tenacious spirit. The tragic and brutal taking of his life has resulted in a loss that I don't think we'll recover. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ugh.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. You can step down.
Hi, Dawn Marie.
That concludes the witnesses we'll be presenting, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Draskovich.
Okay, that's it for the prosecution.
Mary Ann Ismail.
And now these are witnesses for the defendant. Our favorite reporter said that his ex-wife is going to be testifying.
I'm sorry.
Do you have the list?
I do.
Please watch your step. Yeah, that's fine. And if you'll remain standing, raise your right hand, face clear.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Mary Ann Ismail, Maryann. Last name is Ismael.
Thank you. Mary Ann, do you go by May?
Yes, I go by May.
You know Robert.
Just a little. Yes, I do.
Tell us how you know him and tell us about the two of you, please.
Yeah, so Robert is my husband. We met 15 years ago. We've been married almost 14 years. And it's been well, you know, every marriage has its ups and downs, but it's been a good marriage overall, I would say.
Except for the time he tried to choke you.
Through law school.
Yes. In fact, When we first got married, we not only had a baby, but he also started law school at the same time. So very busy time.
And how was that? What type of law student was he?
He's like, his work ethic is second to none. I've never met anybody who worked so hard, who was so ambitious and just wanted to do everything to not only move himself ahead, but to also make sure that he was able to provide for his family.
And what kind of a provider was he for your family?
He was a great provider. So, you know, not just monetarily, but also he was there. We're a blended family. So I have my son, his daughter, and then we have our youngest one is together. And he was always there, especially for our kids. He attended every single school event. Even if I couldn't make it, he was always there. He was the one that helped them with homework because I have very little patience. And he has just this unlimited amount of patience and was always able to walk our kids through, you know, difficult math problems or word problems or whatever it is that they were having, that they were struggling with. He was always the one that was with them after school and helping them through you know, schoolwork. He was also the fun parent. So he would be the one that would always present ideas like going for a hike as a family. And
this is his wife. This is his current wife. She's talking about what a great dad he is. Staying home with the kids and doing homework and stuff. Huh.
Or he was always the one that wanted, so he was very much, he loved to celebrate holidays and milestones, and always had something up his sleeve. So Easter, for example, was always a big deal. He was the one that would get super excited about decorating eggs with the kids and stuffing the little plastic eggs and hiding them all over our yard. So our kids would have such an amazing time searching. And, you know, he shared a lot of his Mexican traditions with our families. Well, I'm Filipino, so he would share a lot of his traditions with our kids. So like things like where they have like the empty egg that's decorated and it's full of confetti, and you crack it on the kids' heads. Like he introduced that to our children.
What about the time that he choked you in the car and you called 911? We watched the body cam footage from 2020. If she says he dressed up like the Easter Bunny, that's just going to go to him loving costumes. And the reason he dressed up in a costume for this, you know, as such murder that he's been convicted of.
He always had something. Even our wedding anniversaries. I always forgot our wedding anniversaries, but he never did. Always had a gift, always had something planned, even if it's just a dinner with just the two of us. One year he had planned this whole weekend getaway where we went up to Zion, we went hiking. He had planned like different tours where we went rappelling, and it was just the most amazing weekend, and it was so much fun.
I'm going to show you, and Your Honor, we have a number of photographs that are in a drive that will be given to the jury, if I may publish, and they're going to be admitted by way of stipulation.
I would cross-examine her about his violent behavior.
This is a picture here of you and your family, and this is a little bit older photo, and I know there's been a lot of press that this case has drawn. I'm not going to ask you the names of your children for obvious reasons, but this is a picture of you and your husband and your mixed family.
Yes.
A blended family.
Yes, our blended family.
You each had a child from a prior marriage, and then you had one in common.
Correct. Yeah.
How did he treat all three children?
Obviously the two girls are his, but he never treated my son any differently. So when we first met and we first started dating,
he cheated on her too.
And so but he never.
He cheated on her. He had backseat meetings with Rebecca Lee Kennett. It's on video. Jeff Gehrman reported about it. Boss Baby admitted it on the stand to a worldwide audience that he cheated on her. And she's still, I don't know what to say about this.
Even to this day, he doesn't treat him any differently than he treats any of the other kids. So, calls him my son. It's always, he refers to the two girls as, his sisters, or he would talk to his sisters about, oh, that's your brother. And it was never a question about, there was no step brother, half brother. It was just their brothers and sisters, period.
And that's fairly uncommon based upon talking to friends and other experiences.
Yeah.
Fair to say. In addition to being a family man, an attorney, having gone through law school during your marriage, was he involved in any community activities?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So even throughout law school, even before law school, so he was a very active Rotarian with the local Rotary Club here in Las Vegas. He was always involved with community service, planning events. He's offered his law services to help start other nonprofit organizations. And he would be the first one to volunteer if anyone ever needed help that he knew that he can assist with.
So philanthropic.
And it inspired me so much that I actually became a Rotarian with a different club, which and it was something that we just shared together.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell this jury that I perhaps have failed to ask you?
Not only him going into the back seat of his car, how about using her car to commit the murder?
Robert
Wow.
he is an amazing father. And like I said, even to this day, he tries to stay involved with the kids. He tries to share some type of an experience with them, even when he was at the detention center. Like him and my youngest daughter, they would talk about anime and manga, and they would send each other drawings that they had, and he really tried to continue fostering the relationship with his children, even when he couldn't be there, in person. Always made sure checked on, even would check on schoolwork, so I would
Now he's
love
gonna
for my
cry?
children to not lose that, at least not for the rest of their lives.
My eye is twitching now.
Robert really is a great father.
She said was a great father. Now he is a great father. Yeah, he had affairs behind her back. They were published in the newspaper. There's video of him getting out of the back seat with a coworker subordinate, and he admitted it on the stand that he had an affair. And I can't believe this, that she's pleading for leniency for him. My eye just started to twitch.
And he's a good husband. And
Really, except for the DV and the cheating.
I would love at some point to give my children the chance to have their father back.
Thank you, ma'am. I have no further questions.
Now he's crying. I love you. And he mouthed, I loved you. I love you. He mouthed, I love you. Okay. If you haven't been watching the screen, watch the screen now. This is the most emotion we've seen out of him during this entire trial, except for when they showed the crime scene photos of his house after the search warrant was executed and all his stuff was in disarray. He cried then too.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your
I can't believe they're not going to
testimony
cross her on
today. You
the.
may step down.
Wow. Yeah, she wants to save him for her children's sake, but
Tanya Burton?
I don't think he has much money, Denny Dawn. That's a low-level political job. I mean, I don't think he was making much money. His mistress did testify. Her name is is it Rebecca or Roberta
Right over here, ma'am.
Lee
Step up
Kennett?
to the witness stand, please. Thank you. If you'll remain standing, raise your right hand, face clerk.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Tanya Burton, Tonia. Last name is Burton, N as in Nancy.
Thank you. Ma'am, obviously you know Robert Tellis.
I do.
Please tell us how you know him.
Robert Tellis was my first husband. We have a daughter together who is an amazing child.
Due to the amount of attention, press attention this case has garnered, I'm not going to ask you your daughter's name.
Thank you.
How old is she?
She's 16 years old.
What can you tell us about Robert Tellis?
Okay, I'm going to fall off my chair. I think I may fall off my chair because not only did his current wife just testify on his behalf for leniency, now his ex-wife is testifying. They have a 16-year-old daughter together. Color me shocked. I don't get shocked that often, but okay, here we go.
Is a great dad to her. He loves her. She misses him every day. He always helped her with so much of her homework because, I'm going to be honest, he's higher educated than me and he's just good at that stuff. He's very patient, very thorough. They would spend Sundays together.
So he's an attentive father.
Absolutely. He was part of her soccer team for a while when she was younger. A great advocate for her diabetes. Always up on the new technology.
And in reference to your daughter's diabetes, what type of a father, what type of caretaker was he with your daughter with?
From the time she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he was up on every single new technology, every single sensor, every single new idea. Very big on what kind of diet she could have, what she needed, what she shouldn't have. Most of our arguments, even later, were over what she should and shouldn't have. And he was usually right.
Fair to say he's been a very hands-on dad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And even given your separation from him, his new marriage, he's continued to co-parent with you the best he could.
Absolutely. Robert always involved even my newer stepkids and his family. They went trick-or-treating together. They celebrated all kinds of special events together.
So even though you had moved on and then ultimately had your own stepkids, he included them in his family activities.
Absolutely. I don't think there was one Christmas that went by with no gift, no anything. He was very involved in Olivia's sisters. They were her sisters.
Fair to say that Robert's intelligent.
Absolutely.
Has a hard work ethic.
He does. A lot of drive.
In your opinion, is he capable of change, learning?
Absolutely. I believe he can get anything done if he chooses to, if he has that direction.
In addition to these questions that I've asked you, is there anything that you'd like to tell this jury that I have not asked you?
My daughter is 16 years old and she misses her dad. And I know that you've made your decision, but I have hope that one day he can walk her down the aisle when she chooses to get married. When she has children, I'd like him to have the chance to be there with her, for her.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any comments?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down. You may call your next witness.
Our final witness will be Rosa Anaya.
We're a little bit behind. I'm going to just FF it a little bit. You don't see this happen very often.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Rosalinda Anaya, Rosalinda, last name Anaya.
His
So now
mother-in-law,
you are
maybe?
Robert's mother.
Yes.
A mother.
Tell
Mother?
us about him and about your other children.
I was 18 years old when Robert was born, and he was my world. And 3 years after, I had another son, and my daughter is 6 years younger. And he was
Okay. I'm just going to point out, does anybody notice that he has a penchant or a type for women who look like his mother? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. This is really sad. And this is his mother. And of course, any mother would get up there and beg for leniency on behalf of her son. I don't know what just happened. What just happened
Just tell
here?
us about that.
he's an
Hold on.
excellent dad.
Just cut off on me. Let me just rewind it a little bit. Ay, 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 ay. So she had Robert when she was 18. That's the first thing we got out of her. The first thing she said. Okay. This is Robert Tellis's mother testifying as a character witness on his behalf during the penalty phase of this trial, during which the jury will decide his penalty.
Tell us about him and about your other children.
I was 18 years old when Robert was born, and he was my world. And 3 years after, I had another son, and my daughter is 6 years younger. And he was a great big brother. Always took care of his siblings, was very loving. He never fought with them.
I'm going to show you a picture that you sent to us and has been admitted by stipulation.
It's from
Who's
my
in this
boys.
picture?
My two sons.
This one on the left, is that Robert?
Yes.
And the one on the right?
Is my other son, his brother.
How old was Robert, if you can recall, when this picture was taken?
Probably about 5.
Showing another picture that's been admitted.
That's when Robert was 8 months old.
They're not showing us the
When he
pictures. So
was
if you're
my
not
world.
watching, you're not missing anything.
And you would have been 19?
Yes. In that picture, I'm 19 years old.
Were you a working mother?
Not at that point, but when Robert was 13, I got a divorce from his father. And that's when Robert became the man of the house.
Going to show you this group of pictures that you had sent us. Why don't you start with the left of the screen and describe to us what we're seeing.
That's Robert as a toddler. Right there, he was probably 2 years old. The top picture is Robert with his girls at the father-daughter dance.
Oh,
And
good.
then
They're
the
not
other
showing
two
his
you-
kids.
Fair to say, obviously, this case has been very difficult for you and your family.
Very.
You had said that you began working, you were 13. I'm sorry, when he was 13, you went back to work after the divorce. Tell me about what
Yes.
it was like with him as your oldest child.
Like I said, he became the man of the house. At 13, I was working full-time, going to school in the evenings. So he took care of his siblings, made sure that they were fed, got them to bed because I got home so late. Also at 13, I was a single mom. I remember I couldn't afford to buy them school clothes and shoes, and we would go pick chili. And I remember he was 13 and our hands were burning because the chili was so hot, even though we were wearing gloves. I'd fill up the buckets and he would take them to the truck and we would make like $2 a bucket. And it was a lot of hard work and a lot of buckets just to be able to buy them school shoes.
Okay. All right. When you went to pick these chili peppers and you wore gloves, did you also wear giant straw hats? Because I'm getting a vibe here. I'm getting a vibe. Wow. Sad. He had a sad childhood. I'm sorry for him. It does not excuse him being a murderer.
Where did Robert grow up
In Texas, in El Paso, Texas.
and what was that like? What was his childhood like in El Paso, Texas?
Like I say, he was a very good boy, very loving, very supportive of his siblings and myself. an occasion when I was threatened once physically. He was very protective and, came to my rescue to protect me, and he was only 13. Once he was in high school, he got a job at a gas station. He would also help take his brother and sister to school in the morning, pick them up after school. Has always been very loving, a great son, great brother,
Has Robert always had a good work ethic?
very. Like I said, at 13, he started working with me in the field, then in gas station. As an adult, he was an IT tech, then heating and cooling, HVAC tech during the day, and then went to law school in the evening.
So he
Always wanted to better himself.
put himself through law school
Yes,
while being a father.
yes.
Finally, you've obviously had an opportunity to see him interact with your grandchildren and step-grandchildren. Just tell us about that.
He's an excellent dad. Always very involved. And like I said, even with me, as an adult, always helping financially, emotionally. I have a lot of health issues. He was always on top of that.
Yeah, why weren't they there for the trial then? Inexplicable Susan. I can't explain that either. Why weren't they there for the trial if he's such a wonderful man and great dad?
Even to this day, we talk several times a week.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can I say one last thing, Judge, please?
Please, do you have another, there's something else that you'd like to tell us?
Yes. I ask you to please, I accept the verdict. And if you could please give my son a chance of parole. His family is still very young, and I would like for him to someday be back with them again. Please, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm done.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Judge.
That concludes our presentation.
All right. Okay, so at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short recess. When you come back, you'll have an opportunity.
She said, I love you, son, as she left. And he said, I love you
okay.
too. Hold on.
I'm sorry. You come back.
Wait.
All right. Okay, so at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short recess. When you come back, you'll have an opportunity.
I love you, Mom, he
sorry.
said.
Oh, okay. And when you come back, you'll have an opportunity to hear from both sides in their closing argument. We'll go with Officer Cox, and he will bring you back in when we're ready. Thank you very much. You're excused.
I wonder if he's going to get a chance to speak. Just wow.
Yes, I am.
Hold on.
Okay, Mr.
Went too fast. This would be the perfect time for him to apologize to his mother, yeah, and his wife and his ex-wife.
We just needed to formally settle the instructions. Is the state familiar with court's proposed instructions 1 through 13?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Any further instructions to propose?
Thank you.
And you're familiar with the verdict form?
Yes.
Any objection?
No.
Okay, Mr. Draskovich, are you familiar with court's proposed 1 through 13?
Yes, I am.
Any objection?
No objections.
Any further instructions to propose?
That have not been given, no, they're complete.
Okay, and have you looked at the verdict form as well?
We haven't, we have no objection to it.
Okay, all right. Probably about 15 minutes and then we'll come back in and start.
I just want to, before Judge Leavitt leaves the bench, I just want to point out what a refreshing change it has been to see a judge like Michelle Leavitt in Clark County, Nevada. She's been on the bench for something like 24 years, I think, or 20. I think she was appointed in 2002. So like 22 years she's been on the bench. She is the best mashup of Cyndi Lauper, 90s Madonna, and Betsey Johnson with the voice of Megan Mullally's character, Karen Walker from Will and Grace. And I love her. And I'm upset we didn't get to see more of her because she did not insert herself into this trial. She did not take every opportunity to make a speech. We rarely heard from her at all. This was a trial with hardly any objections. And I just wish that we could see more of her. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
About 15 minutes and then we'll come back in and start.
Let's see. What time was that? I was at 2:28 Pacific. So we have about 9 minutes or so before they come back to take some questions and talk about this a little bit. Wow. Just wow. Corey, I don't know if I addressed this before, but thank you for the super chat. I guess what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas in this case. Kimmy said, landslide, CB Nix. I love CB radios. Thank you, Kimmy. Susan, again, thank you for the $50 super sticker. You're amazing. Michelle, thanks for the 10, says, my husband came in one day when I was watching you, told him all about your channel, and I said to him, I freaking love her. You're the best, Melanie. Oh, thanks, Michelle. Thank you. Always being such a kind and generous contributor. Jody, thanks for the 10. Thank you. Thanking me for my extraordinary coverage of these important cases. My faith in justice was restored today with this verdict. Between this and Sandra Birchmore, it's been a good day for justice here in the United States. Thank you, Cheyenne Brown, for the 5. He looks like a defeated baby. Yeah, JPC, thanks for the 20. He can't muster up fake tears here, but he sure did blubber about a messy house after the search. Yep. That's the last time we saw tears. Then when his wife came to the stand. But again, why didn't she show up at the trial? If anybody could give me a good explanation for that, I'd love to hear it. But not while I'm reading the super chats because I won't see it. Thank you, Gringa, who says, I feel he's not regretting his choices, just the fact that he got caught. Bummer, boss, baby. Thank you for the 5, Gringa. Mama She, thank you again. For the 10, says, I'm sorry, but if the father of my children was a killer, I'd want to protect them from him. Yeah. Wouldn't you want to protect your children from him? And like somebody said before, why didn't I highlight it? I thought I did. Are we teaching our daughters that it's okay if, your husband, beats you up and chokes you and you have to call 911 and they're arrested and that's okay because you know what? He does your homework with you. So no worries. He went out and killed a guy for writing a story about him, but we still want him out so he can walk you down the aisle. I'm sorry. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't care if they're doing it for the kids. If these were if they were my kids, I'd want to protect my kids from him. That's what I'd want to do. I'd be like, keep him in there as long as possible, please, so that my children never have to be exposed to him. That's just me. Thanks, Helene, for the 5. Weird how she said he became the man of the house when she divorced his dad. Aligns with what you said about his wives looking like his mom. They did, right? And the story that she told about the shoes, about they would have to pick those chilies to buy shoes. I mean, is that why he bought his shoes at Ross and Marshall's? Because as a kid, that's what he was accustomed to? I don't know. But I want to know what you guys think. Yeah, Ken says they didn't love him enough to show up during the trial. Nope. They didn't. It's like way bright. Wow. Christy says, I can't believe the jury gets to decide his punishment. Yeah, and we don't see this much. So here are the choices. I'll put up a poll in a second, but just think about these choices. This is from least to harshest. 50 years with parole eligible after 20 years. Life with parole availability, eligible for parole after 20 years, or life without parole. Those are the 3 choices. A-Rod said nothing about him being abused. A lot of parents couldn't afford school clothes. Yeah, but I'm wondering now, he became the man of the house at 13. So what happened to cause this divorce? Was his father abusive? Hence, look, abused kids become abusers sometimes, right? Because that's their normal. So, or did he watch his father abuse his mother as a child? And so he grew up thinking that was normal and that made him also abusive to his wife, because we know about the second wife. His current wife, he was abusive to her. We've seen the tape. We've seen the body cam footage. And he was like, whatever stream I did that on, it was one of the pretrial streams. He was like, let out of jail free for that. I think she dropped the charges. Gamer Ducko says, if he had to be the man of the house, his control issue makes sense to me. Role reversal with his mom very early on in life. So bizarre. Golden Mare, many children are raised more poor than not. They all do well. I am watching several in my area achieving far above what would be expected from their childhood. Yeah. K-Pick. I actually have absolutely no sympathy for this dude. It's very rare for me with someone that's been to prison, been on trial. I get it. It sucks, but this is absolutely senseless. Thanks, K-Pick, for chiming in there. Amanda says those things should have strengthened his character. Seems to me he just wanted control. Mini 560 says, wow. I started working in the family restaurant at age of 9, had a car payment at 14. Good for you, girl. Growing up an independent woman. Gitmo Holiday says, cutting up the shoe and straw hat could be some revenge on his past, and small posture could be. Danny Don says, no tears, I can't. I would be bawling my head off. Jenny Grace just threw her dinner away. She's like, it's sickening. How old is he now? I'm going to Google it. Robert Telly's age. Because I'm covering so many cases at the same time that now I am confused, but let's see. He is... Well, Google doesn't know the answer. You guys know? Tell me if you know. We are waiting for the courts on a short break. They should be back within like 3 minutes or so. He's 45 right now. Okay, thank you, Manifest Necessity. Thanks for loving. Oh, and you have a picture of Alan Jackson as your profile picture? Is that Alan Jackson? It's very small on my screen, but AJ Smooth as Butter Jackson. Love when you guys change your names for the trials that we're covering in Manifest Necessity is, of course, from Judge Cannoni's decision last Friday. He's 45, so 65, he'd be eligible for parole if they pick one of the lesser punishments. That's what Lee said. 2 words, coercive control. We're learning a lot about that, ladies and gentlemen, lately. We saw it in the Ashley Benefield case, too. A lot of people don't know about coercive control, but we know because we've been like living it in these past couple of trials. All right, let me see if I can put the poll up in the chat because a lot of people were asking for a poll, so let's do it. Can I talk and do a poll at the same time? That's going to be the true multitasking. Trick. I mean, do you guys think he deserves to get out when he's 65? I mean, he took a life. We saw 3 people testify on behalf of the victim, Jeff Gehrman, 3 of his siblings. And it was heartbreaking listening to them talk about their brother. And none of them said horrific things about the defendant, which was so interesting, right? Jenny, thank you. Says, remember that they are his victims too. You mean his ex-wives and his mom? I mean, his wife, his ex-wife, and his mom. 10, 11, 12, thanks for the 5. They're all drinking his Kool-Aid. BTK's daughter said he was a good father. Yep. And you know what? Rex Heurman's wife is sticking by him. And as far as we know, his daughter and stepson, we don't know. He's the suspected Long Island serial killer. Dewey, thanks for the 5. Curiouser and curiouser. I wonder how his kids truly feel about him. Yeah, that's an Alice in Wonderland quote. Call me Alice, because I often get in these rabbit holes of things. Okay. So I'm going to have you vote on the punishment, on what you think it should be. All right. So the first option is going to be 50 years with parole eligibility after 20. The next is life with parole eligibility after 20. And the third option is going to be life without possibility of parole, taking into consideration that he is currently 45 years old, which would make him 65 when parole eligible. DK, thank you for the 5, says his mom and wife were both in the courtroom during the trial. They were? I guess we didn't know what to look for, but they were not sitting behind him, because we would have seen that purple hair. Are you sure? Because Jaewon Young, our favorite reporter from the Las Vegas station, had tweeted, I believe, that they had not been in the courtroom during the entire trial. So we can go back and look, but I'm pretty sure she said that at one point. Kathleen, thank you for becoming a new member so much. And just remember, KPIC says parole is never guaranteed with a life with possibility. So life with possibility parole is never guaranteed. But I don't know if any of them are guaranteed, right? Don't you have to go before a parole board and have a whole hearing and everything like that? How old are his kids? Well, his daughter with his ex-wife is 16. She's the one who has diabetes that he was making I don't know if that's the one that he was making the fried rice for. Okay, they're coming back in. And then the rest of them, I guess, are younger than that. He has one child, one daughter with his current wife. And he has a stepson. And I don't know, they're younger than 16. I know that. Thank you, Nora. Says his family statements were underwhelming, and which was odd. I have weird thoughts now. Tell us, Nora. Do tell. Tell us more. What do you tell us? Tell us. Tell us your weird thoughts about the Telus family. Denny Dawn says, watch the Louisiana parole board hearings and you will see life without parole doesn't always mean that. Your eyes will be opened on just how much the system is jacked up. Magus Decker, Jaewon just said she saw his wife and ex-wife in the courtroom halfway through. Okay. All right. I'm glad you guys followed her. Yay. Yay, you. You guys are always getting it done. You guys, when we did, when it was Mr. Reed's birthday the other day, Karen's dad's birthday, Kelly Reed came in the chat and it said, if people would like to donate $7.60 to Karen's defense fund for her dad's birthday, that would be so nice. And I think they raised something like over $13,000 that day. So you guys are awesome. Green Beagle says, yes, but remember the parole board paroled a Charles Manson member. So there's that. Yeah, but she's like 80 or 90 years old. Will the jury decide today? We don't. Look how long it took them to come to a verdict. We were here for 3 days. So it's got to be unanimous. Denny Don says, I think they were forced. I did not find his wife or his ex sincere, only about his kids. But even they said that he's a great dad. He's a great husband, his wife said. He's a great husband. D, the day you were gone, I watched Recovery Addicts, and he said they had both been in the room. Okay. I'll take his word for it. Thanks, Dee. Lori, thanks for being a member for 2 months. I think his family's afraid of him, or I can't see how they aren't. He's not just completely evil at the office. I mean, we saw the body cam footage from the DV call in 2020. It was chilling. We watched it.
Relate to the presence of the panel?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have been provided with, Hawks, have you passed out the jury instructions? You will be provided with a copy of the jury instructions. There are 13 of them. I'm required to read them to you. As you know, you'll each have your own packet. You can follow along, and you'll be able to take them with you.
Oh my God, they're sitting right in
Go
front
back
of the
to
women in his
deliberate.
office.
Number one.
Okay, his wife is sitting right in front of the women that he terrorized in the public administrator's office. Okay. Crazy, because there are two sides to this courtroom, and I guess he's not speaking. And now we're going to hear the jury instructions. This just keeps getting stranger and stranger. That's a Grateful Dead quote. So let's get on with the show. Let's go.
It is now my duty as judge to instruct you in the law that applies to this penalty hearing. It is your duty as jurors to follow these instructions and to apply the rules of law to the facts as you find them from the evidence. You must not be concerned with the wisdom of any rule of law stated in these instructions, regardless of any opinion you may have as to what the law ought to be or would be a violation of your oath. You must verdict upon any other view of the law than that given in the instructions of the court. Number two, if in these instructions any rule, direction, idea is repeated or stated in different ways, no emphasis thereon is intended by me, and none may be inferred by you. For that reason, you are not to single out any certain sentence or any individual point or instruction, ignore the others, but you are to consider all the instructions as a whole and regard each in the light of all the others. Number three, the trial jury shall fix the punishment for every person convicted of murder of the first degree. The jury shall fix the punishment at 1, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, which means exactly what it says, that the defendant shall not be eligible for parole. Number 2, life imprisonment with the possibility of parole with eligibility for parole beginning when a minimum of 20 years has been served. Or 3, a definite term of 50 years with eligibility for parole beginning when a minimum of 20 years has been served. Number 4, a prison term of 50 years with eligibility for parole beginning when a minimum of 20 years has been served does not mean that the defendant would be paroled after 20 years, but only that he or she would be eligible for parole after that period of time. Life imprisonment with the possibility of parole is a sentence to life imprisonment, which provides that the defendant would be eligible for parole after a period of 20 years. This does not mean that he would be paroled after 20 years, but only that he would be eligible for parole after that period of time. Life imprisonment without the possibility of parole means exactly what it says, that the defendant shall not be eligible for parole. Number 5, in the penalty hearing, evidence may be presented concerning aggravating and mitigating circumstances relative to the offense and any other evidence that bears on the defendant's character. Hearsay is admissible in a penalty hearing. Number 6, a reasonable doubt is one based on reason. It's not mere possible doubt, but is such a doubt as would govern or control a person in the more weighty affairs of life. If the minds of the jurors, after the entire comparison and consideration of all of the evidence, are in such a condition that they can say they feel an abiding conviction of the truth of the charge, there is not a reasonable doubt. Doubt to be reasonable must be actual, not mere possibility or speculation. Number 7, the jury is instructed that in determining the appropriate penalty to be imposed in this case, that it may consider all evidence introduced and instructions given at both the penalty hearing phase of these proceedings and at the trial of this matter. Number 8, in your deliberation, you may not discuss or consider the subject of guilt or innocence of a defendant, as that issue has already been decided. Your duty is confined to determination of the punishment to be imposed. Number 9, the credibility or believability of a witness should be determined by his manner upon the stand, his relationship to the parties, his fears, motives, interests, or feelings, his opportunity to have observed the matter to which he testified, the reasonableness of his statements, and the strength or weakness of his recollections. If you believe that a witness has lied about any material fact in the case, you may disregard the entire testimony of that witness or any portion of his testimony which is not proved by other evidence. Number 10, although you are to consider Only the evidence in the case and reaching a verdict must bring to the consideration of the evidence your everyday common sense and judgment as reasonable men and women. Thus, you are not limited solely to what you see and hear as the witnesses testify. You may draw reasonable inferences from the evidence which you feel are justified in the light of common experience, keeping in mind that such inferences should not be based on speculation or guess. A verdict may never be influenced by sympathy, prejudice, or public opinion. Your decision should be the product of sincere judgment and sound discretion in accordance with these rules of law. Number 11, during your deliberation, you are not to communicate with anyone other than your fellow jurors in the jury deliberation room in any manner regarding the facts and circumstances of this case or its merits, either by phone, email, text messaging, internet, or other means. You're admonished not to read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary about the case. You are not permitted to do any independent research, such as consulting dictionaries, using the internet, or any other reference materials. You are further admonished to not conduct any investigation, test a theory of the case, recreate any aspect of the case, or in any other manner investigate or learn about the case on your own. Number 12, during your deliberation, you will have all the exhibits which were admitted into evidence, these written instructions and forms of verdict which have been prepared for your convenience. Your verdict must be unanimous. When you've agreed upon your verdicts, they should be signed and dated by your foreperson. Number 13, now you will listen to the arguments of counsel, who will endeavor to aid you to reach a proper verdict by refreshing in your minds the evidence and by showing the application thereof to the law. But whatever counsel may say, you will bear in mind that it is your duty to be governed in your deliberation by the evidence as you understand it, and remember it to be and by the laws given to you in these instructions, with the sole fixed and steadfast purpose of doing equal and exact justice between the defendant and the state of Nevada. The state may address the panel.
Your Honor, the state's going to waive the first clause and reserve for rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Draskovich.
Thank you.
Oh, is Justine Gaddis there? One of our favorite detectives from Las Vegas Metro PD. Is she there? Okay, I'm going to look for her. Tell me what she's wearing, Megan.
You know, the jury instruction that I would like you to look at and please pay close attention to is jury instruction number 4. Jury instruction number 4 lays out the penalties that you are to consider at this stage in the case. You've heard a great deal of testimony in this case. You've seen a lot of exhibits. You've been attentive. We're basically rounding third base here, and you're headed home. And I'm going to ask you to, again, apply the same attentiveness,
Wait, they're headed home?
the same effort, and the same energy that you've expended up to this point. You know, when we pass judgment, it's an awesome responsibility because it takes two. It takes one to pass the judgment, and it takes one to receive it. The judgment that you make in this case will place an indelible life or an indelible mark upon his life and yours as well.
Well, he put an end to someone else's life, so, there's that. Sorry, I'm just not
You've
seeing
heard
any
from the
leniency
families,
here.
and in this case, we have 2 devastated families. Both families, through no actions of their own, have received the trauma of this case.
They're furiously tweeting, the 2 reporters behind him.
The question now that's been put at your feet and that you must determine and you must pass judgment on as being the sole determiners of the facts is what's the appropriate sentence. There's generally 4 purposes of sentencing. First would be that of restitution. Well, in this case, it's a murder case.
Yeah, can't bring him back.
There's not going to be a return of Jeff Gehrman's life. But then the question becomes, what does that mean? No sentence whatsoever that could be imposed is ever going to change that. The second purpose or consideration in the area of sentencing concerns deterrence. There's a fair amount of science on this subject, and our criminal justice system does the very best it can, but heavy punishments in capital cases, capital punishments don't really have a deterrent effect. What we do have in our sentencing scheme in this state and most others are very harsh sentences. Every sentence that you are to consider will be the sentence imposed when you ultimately make your determination.
You're losing the jury, Draskovich.
It's not like a person gets sentenced and gets their sentence commuted. No,
Yeah.
what you decide is the sentence that stays.
How can we be sure he's not going to kill again? He's a danger to society. Thank you, Kathleen.
You know, the third purpose or consideration in sentencing is rehabilitation. And we're making steps in this society and in this state concerning rehabilitation. Any sentence that you determine is appropriate involves a heavy prison sentence. We've heard from Robert's family. He's smart. He's capable of learning. He's got a work ethic. Any sentence that you impose, there's going to be a long period of incarceration, perhaps forever. And I'm going to ask you not to do that. But every sentence will have a period, a substantial period of time that would allow for rehabilitation. The fourth purpose or consideration is retribution. You know, I mean, most of us, this community kind of comes from this old Judeo-Christian, most societies, most cultures have this idea of retribution. And I would submit to you that as a society, we've gotten past this idea of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You know, we end up being blind and toothless.
Oh, some religions also believe in the 10 Commandments, you know, like thou shalt not kill. That I think is one of them, last time I checked.
You know, oftentimes though in society, and I will submit to you now in this stage of this case, there's just tug of war, really, between retribution and redemption. You know, in order for justice to be justice, there needs to be an element of mercy. You know, a person has to pay. There has to be this idea of punishment for a crime. But at the same time, there has to be this element of hope.
We should show him mercy because why?
I'm not a religious person, but I know much of our society is religious in nature, and we have these ideas of atonement.
Death don't.
Forgiveness.
No mercy.
I would submit to you that we don't forgive to let an offender off. Forgiveness involves preserving ourselves. As a society, we have to have this element of mercy when it comes to justice. There has to be this element of forgiveness. Question then becomes, will there be this opportunity of redemption? What's going to happen in his life now? You've heard pretty compelling evidence, testimony from his family. You've seen the pictures. He's a loving dad to his natural children and those that aren't. He's got a work ethic. He's intelligent. He can learn. You know, the sentence that you decide, this connection that will leave this indelible mark on his life.
Intelligent. He wasn't the smartest criminal, was he? Hanging on to the hat and the shoes, driving his wife's car. I beg to differ with your saying that he's intelligent.
How's it going to affect his family? His children? You've heard the evidence. We respect your verdict. What happens now? Give him the opportunity, give those children the opportunity at one time, decades from now, the opportunity to have their father back, their stepfather back. Maybe even his mom will be alive at the time when he's released. Let her have the opportunity to have her son back.
Somebody's sobbing loudly in the courtroom.
It's a heavy burden. The judge has instructed you. Obviously, you're duty bound, as you have been in the initial phase of this case, to follow those instructions. Allow for there to be mercy in this determination.
That's right. Not Ray
He's not
Davies. Mercy was shown when the death penalty was taken off the table.
I'm going to speak to you through this course. Given the posture of this case, he's maintained his innocence, but don't punish him for that. You know, he's exercised his
Punish him for
right
killing
to
someone.
go to trial. This is what makes this country so great.
Mhm.
You know, trial by jury, trial by our peers. Hold the state to their burden. That's occurred. You've passed your judgment. please don't punish him for exercising his constitutional right, which is one of, again, these ideas that we adopted from this old English common law and that our founding fathers embedded in our Constitution. Please don't punish him for doing that, for holding the state to its burden. And they've done an exemplary job presenting their case. You've done an exemplary job reviewing the evidence. But now the question as to the appropriate penalty. What is it? It's not life without. The man has no criminal history. He's 48 years old. He's led an otherwise exemplary
48.
life.
We thought he was
Put himself through
45.
school, worked climbing ladders, doing HVAC, raised kids.
Yeah, a real man's guy, a
He's
real
involved with his daughter's
man of the people.
diabetes. He researches it. And even now, as he sits in custody, he's been a hands-on father. You know, oftentimes we deal in the criminal justice system with these recidivists, people that commit crimes over and over again, and they just don't
Draskovich, your homily is over. The homily is over. Thanks be to God. Enough already.
learn. You know, that's an appropriate sentence, life without. That's what you give a man that doesn't learn from his mistakes. That's what you give a man that continues to break the law, puts other people in danger. Given your decision, you have found that he's committed a crime, and now the question is, what's the appropriate punishment? I mean, I know firsthand, you apply to the bar, you have to give up every traffic ticket. If you're tardy and get expelled, they know about it. He was a licensed attorney. I'm not in any way saying that makes him a better person, but it shows that he had the wherewithal to put himself through school, to learn, and he had the background that allowed him to become a lawyer. That's gone.
A lot of lawyers are criminals, in case you were wondering. They also have the highest rate of alcoholism outside of it. Maybe doctors are up there too, but a lot of lawyers that become alcoholics. Doesn't make you a great person because you're able to get a law degree and pass the bar. Sorry.
Give him a chance when he's an old man to maybe be around his grandkids or for them to be around him. He has a lot to give. Regardless of what's been proven in this case, regardless of what's happened, he has more to give. Locking him up, throwing away the key doesn't do him any good. It doesn't do his family any good. It doesn't do our society any good. Show him mercy, please. I'd submit to you that as a society, it's the appropriate thing to do.
Mercy, mercy me.
Thank you very much. The state may address the jury.
Thank you.
Everybody's coughing. Oh, here we go. They're going to Hamner it home now. Death Don't Have No Mercy. Name that song. Name that tune. Death Don't Have No Mercy. Who wrote it? Who covered it? Death Don't Have No Mercy. One of the greatest tunes by this songwriter that I'm thinking of. No cheating.
Can I proceed? Thanks so much. I want to touch on a few things. I think what you've seen over the course of this trial, when you've listened to, at least in this phase, when crimes like this are committed, they have a ripple effect. No one wins when crimes like these are committed. But one of the things that has to be abundantly clear about this is we're only here because of the actions of one person and one person alone. And it's the defendant. It was the manner in which the defendant chose to handle the situation that has created this ripple effect on his family, as well as Jess. One of the things, when you do this long enough in our line of work, you see a lot of people come through the system. And the state would submit to you, he is not similarly situated to a lot of people. He is highly educated. He comes from a good, loving family. I'm not saying everyone does, but his upbringing is pretty good. When you think about the situation that he was in, The world wasn't going to end. He had simply lost an election. And the way Robert Tellis chose to handle this was devastating. And it was his choice and his choice alone. No one forced his hand. And so one of the things that we need to talk about is this idea of what they mentioned, retribution, redemption versus retribution. When you think about what happened in this case, think about the act that he committed upon Jeff. What was that? It was an act of retribution. Robert Tellis decided to be judge, jury, and literally the executioner of a man who was simply trying to do his job, to report the news. He executed him. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
But that is how Mr. Tellis felt it was appropriate to deal with this situation. And he has taken this man away, essentially, at that time, the patriarch of his family away from his family. And why? Because he simply wasn't happy with what was being written about him. That is an extraordinarily serious thing to be considered when you evaluate what is the appropriate punishment. Because this is the way Mr. Tellis decides to handle things when he feels slighted. Another thing that the defense brought up was there needs to be a measure of atonement. We agree, atonement is appropriate in certain circumstances. But think about this. The defendant, when he got up and took the stand, was willing to sacrifice the reputations of a company like Compass Realty, the employees that work for Compass Realty, members of the Public Administration's Office, multiple members, specifically Detective Gaddis, Detective Jappy, Detective Mogg, members of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, their DNA lab, even the District Attorney's Office. Why? All to save himself. The state would submit that that is the length that he was willing to go to save himself. And it needs to be considered when you're evaluating what is the appropriate punishment. That's a really scary thought. I want to address something else. What is the appropriate punishment? The state would submit to you that life is an appropriate punishment. Whether it is an eligibility for parole after 20 years or life without the possibility of parole, I'm going to leave that to you. But I want to at least explain to you why the state believes a life sentence is appropriate. One of the reasons is, what did we learn about this case? That Mr. Tellis decided to exact death upon someone who he felt slighted against. And he certainly has shared all the different people he feels slighted against. The beauty of a life sentence is even if he's eligible for parole, if he gets out, he'll always be monitored. Because there is a future of dangerousness going forward. If he truly believes that all of these people did something to him, then there is a risk that something like this could happen again. It should be considered.
He might shank somebody in prison. Just saying.
Another factor as to why we believe life is appropriate. I don't want to paint it in too broad strokes, but we cannot, the state doesn't believe that we should ignore the fact that what happened here was literally a journalist wrote a story or a series of stories and lost their life over it. Because someone or a politician, outgoing politician, just did not like the consequences of the writing. That's a pretty serious thing. That doesn't happen very often, and it should be considered.
Or he was framed.
Which is why we believe life is appropriate. At the end of the day, whether parole eligibility is something that you wish to grant, we'll leave that up to you. But at the end of the day, he was a highly intelligent person with a loving family, with a good background, who really did have his future ahead of him. His life really wasn't over. But he let probably his ego, his pride, get in the way, and it manifested itself in the worst possible way. And we have lost one of the most significant journalists we've had in our community in the world of investigative journalism. So we thank you for your patience and your time. And we wish that you consider these factors when evaluating which of the three punishments are appropriate. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hamner. At this time, the officers of the court will take charge of the jury panel. You can take your notebooks, your jury instructions, and you are excused to deliberate upon your verdict.
Thank you. All right, for acting jury to the third.
Okay. They're going to decide his penalty. Did she say it has to be unanimous? Oh, thank you, Joe Schmo. Suspect there are one or two holdouts not convinced of guilt, and they had to walk him, her, them through it to reach a unanimous verdict. That is quite possible. And he's still in disbelief. He just cannot believe that a jury of 12 of his peers could find him guilty. And now they go back and deliberate. I don't know how long this is going to take. It is currently 3:16 p.m. in Las Vegas, where this is happening. And let's see what our poll says. If you haven't voted in the poll, please vote so that I can take it down on what you would sentence Rob Tellys to. Death don't have no mercy. I have to say, I thought it was Bob Dylan, Devin, but it's not. It's Reverend Gary Davis is the songwriter. Many other bands did cover Death Don't Have No Mercy, including, of course, as you know, the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia Band, Hot Tuna, Yorma, and perhaps some other. Well, of course, Yorma was in Hot Tuna, but yeah, you know what I'm saying. I thought it was Dylan too. Partially Stars, thank you for the 10. They were brave to speak. You're talking about the ex-wives, the wife, the ex-wife, and the mom. Even they were brave to speak on Tellis' behalf. Even if you dislike what was said, there is no place. This is no place for victim shaming, compassion, and vitriol. They are not the criminals here. This is my place, and I don't think that I did that. I did not shame any of those victims. I said that if it was me, I would not want that man around my children. So thanks for your 10. And I disagree because I don't think I victim shamed them at all. I feel very sorry for his children that their father is a murderer. Very sorry for them. But I don't think I'd want my kids around that guy. And that's my opinion. They were very brave to get up there and do that, though. I'll give them that for sure. Thank you, Charlotte, for saying she couldn't watch trials without my commentary. I appreciate you so. Linda Iacopucci, this is a great question. Is it common for that to have the jury decide the punishment? In most states that have the death penalty, the jury does have to decide about the death penalty. But here's the thing that I just learned with, first of all, Google. I mean, I don't like this AI overview that they give you at the top because to me, that's like ChatGPT. All these lawyers that get in trouble because they use ChatGPT to draft their briefs. So I don't believe what this AI overview says. And has anybody ever noticed like the AI thing that they were testing out on YouTube where it says the chat is talking about this, that, and the other? And it's never what the chat is talking about. It's bizarre. But according to Wikipedia, there are only a few states where the jury decides the sentence. And interestingly enough, Nevada is not listed here. So let me just go down to that section, because in this, as of 2018, it says Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, and Virginia have sentencing by jury, but we're in Nevada. They're doing it here. Usually. All right, this is a 2023 article. Let's see this one. Although it doesn't list the states in this article from 2023. Interesting. Because, yeah, you don't see it very often. Only in death penalty cases, they'll have a death penalty phase, and then the jury will decide death or not death. Great point that Richard made. He stalked a man, he studied a man, he murdered a man. I think he would have gone after the women next. And this goes back to the other question. JLo5 says, I've never seen a jury deciding the sentence. Yeah, that's not a death penalty case. I can't remember one in recent memory that wasn't a death penalty case, right? Yes, the Google AI overview drives me nuts because I just don't believe it. I just don't believe anything about AI. It's creepy. Janelle said, I always thought the only time the jury decided the penalty was in DP cases, so I definitely learned something new today. Me too. You and me both. Yes, you are correct. And I remember that too, Caroline. That at the beginning of the trial, she said the jurors would decide the punishment. Yeah. So I do remember that. Oh, Anne can't remember. I know Hot Tuna. Oh, yeah. I remember Yorma. I remember seeing Yorma, like Yorma solo. That's how old I am. I'm wicked old. Ask the people on Twitter. They think I drink some sort of vampire blood or something. There's a whole song about me out there by somebody who's looking at, I don't know, maybe jail time. So that's kind of fun. Sure is, Diddy. I don't believe it either. If I can use the reference for research, then I don't use it. If I can't use the reference for research. Right. Yeah, Travis Williamson, who used to practice in Nevada, says the wife never said to give him parole. Ex-wife said would like to see him walk her down the aisle. That ain't gonna happen. And the mom said, please, parole. I'm flummoxed. Right, Bridget Gordon. Punish him for what he did. He committed an ice cold murder. Mercy was shown when they took the death penalty off the table. Amen, sis. Life without parole. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you, Verbal R. The AI is being weaponized. I believe you. I'm with you there. Trial Junkies United. Could it be because this would have been a death penalty case, even though they took it off the table? The severity was there. That could be. Alexis. I think, no, Alexis is going to want to know what I want. She's going to say, what? Most juries do if it's a capital punishment. Owl Salt. Las Vegas is out here putting the wheels of justice fully in the hands of their citizens. I'm kind of here for it, based only on this case. Yep. Does the jury have to decide one of the three, or can they sentence? No, they only get three choices. They only get those three choices, and I'm going to see what you guys had to say about this in the poll. 68% of you are voting for life without the possibility of parole. 19% life with parole eligible after 20, and 11% 50 years with parole eligible after 20. 11%. So 68% of you want him to get the harshest sentence. Look at you guys. So I don't know how long it's going to take for them to decide this. We may go off and then come back on. They may not decide it today. I don't know. What say you? Yeah, it's a tough crowd, Ann. It's a tough crowd. Welcome in. Welcome in. Just me said, I don't think he woke up one day and decided to become a creep. I think he's very dark with some boss baby emojis. We do have boss baby emojis in here for Members? Yeah, I don't understand why they took death off the table. Does anybody have any intel on that? Why they took the death penalty off the table for this guy? Tell me. Let's see what J1 says. J1 says, well, she was quoting from those closing arguments, and she did say that she saw the ex-wives in the hallway earlier. Danny Jones says the DA kind of said, but I forgot what he said in his presser. They asked him that. Chen Lee says, you take a life, you give the rest of your life, in my opinion. Oh my God, Kimmy, I'm so sorry. My cousin was murdered in his office and they only get 25 years. They are now free. That's horrifying. I'm so sorry that happened to your cousin. Oh, man. Chat is not filled with a lot of mercy. No, you know why? Because we see a lot of innocent people locked up. And we see jurors who can't come to the obvious conclusion that a woman was framed, just saying, and hung juries. It's not that often where we see someone who we believe is 100% guilty actually getting penalized for it. Thank you, Mama Shea says, this is the best places to get opinions. Thank you. I appreciate your 10. Sharon Levenhall, thanks for the deuce. Tellis said 0 on remorse, should not get parole. Right. If you're going to get some kind of retribution, don't you have to at least show some remorse? Show some acknowledgement even for your behavior? Right? Yeah, biased judges. You're right, Deborah. Oh my God. Rosie's cousin killed a lady who was out in 20 years and he now lives to scam people. Rosie, I don't even want to put that comment up there because I hope your cousin doesn't even, I don't even want your cousin to come for you next. Holy crap. What a day. What a day, my friends. What a day. He should just be happy he's not getting the death penalty. I agree. Right. Trial Junkie said this earlier. Where were his siblings to talk about how great he was? Instead, he blackmails his wives to do it. The first wife didn't feel what she was saying. So bizarre. Where he has 3 siblings. Where were they? Out of scope. In that same vein, with the first step in any rehabilitation process is accepting responsibility, which he has not done. No, he hasn't done it, has he? You can't give a criminal a conscience, says Wesley loves Oktoberfest. Well, Oktoberfest is coming up soon, so I'm glad for you that your favorite holiday is coming. Nora, thank you for the super chat. Victim's family wasn't emotional as you might expect them to be. The brother avoided speaking on how he felt. He talked about the collective feelings of everyone. Something felt off about their statements. I don't know, some guys, men, try to not show emotion. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. It seems like he did smile a lot when he talked about his brother and all the great times they had together playing golf, teaching him how to play golf. So sad, in my opinion. Oh, I cut your message short, Mama She. Best options form the best, strongest, smartest, beautiful women. Oh, thank you. Oh, 4. Thank you. Dewey, did you catch the head shake at Hamner at the end? Oh, no, was it Boss Baby's head shake? I don't know. All right, everyone. All right, everyone. Let's do this. My friends, I'm going to put this back up there for you. I would, if you are on the cesspool of Twitter, which you know I am not, I'd love it if you would go follow. Or didn't I put her up before? Oh, I'll do it this way. Our favorite reporter. Oh my goodness, I'm limited to 50 banners. I have no more banners left. I have to delete one. Okay. What do you mean, man? StreamYard, really? The amount of money I pay you? All right. Oh, I don't want it scrolling. That's why. All right, hold on a second. Do, 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 do. Okay. Let me make sure I spelled it right. Jaewon Jung on Twitter. Oh, that's not what it is, though. That's not her handle. No wonder. Hold on a second. There it is. At J1 News. Okay, so she is a local reporter with the local station that we've been following, KTNV in Las Vegas. I love going to local news for all of our stories because the local news has a vested interest in these cases and they are wonderful reporters and they deserve a big break. So let's go follow her on Twitter. Oh, look at that. When I first started earlier today, she only had like a little less than 1,000, like 984. Now she's up to 1,100. Amazing. She will keep you updated. So when she says that the jury has reached their decision on the penalty, we'll come back. Okay. We're going to end this stream and I'm just going to go live when it happens because it may not happen today. It may happen tomorrow. But, you know, I'm always here and waiting for you guys because that's how much I love you. Go follow her on Twitter. Send her a cupcake. I'm going to call it Twitter forever. Okay. That's what I said the whole way. Yeah. Make sure that you have your notifications set to all. Make sure that you hit the like button on your way out. Make sure that you're kind and generous to everyone out there. And make sure that you come back when they decide because I will be here. Oh my goodness. Margaret sending me $100 Venmo, really? For Sandra Birchmore's coverage? Thank you. You're amazing. And for Tellus. Says you've been providing such great coverage, Margaret. You are amazing. Thank you. Maria, thank you for your Venmo. And Stephanie, I already thanked you earlier. Cheryl and Christina, you guys are unbelievable. And I couldn't do this without you. Jenny, thank you for buying me a matcha latte. And Mama She, thank you for the Cash App. And you guys are wonderful. There's nothing I'd rather do than spend my trial days with you. All of you. Every single day that we're together is amazing. Okay? So I don't know about that. Okay, Mama She, the super chat is not putting my words up. The whole comment was supposed to say this is the best place to get the best options from the ... Okay. Thank you, Mama She. All right, you guys. Be cool and be kind, be classy. Gonna see this. Gonna see, oh, Queen Rose Red. Thanks for coming in. And you live in Vegas. All right. We're gonna be here for it as soon as J1 News tells us that they're ready, because then we come back. We have a couple of minutes. All right. Be cool, be kind, be classy. See you soon. Hit the like button. And if you go get your free trial of Aura, you guys, I've been plugging it on mostly every show, but I didn't plug it today. But if you know, your social security number is on the dark web. And if you have Aura, you can get a free 2-week trial. The link is underneath this video. They will tell you what to do when your social is found on the dark web, because mine was, and it can damage your credit. And it's too late by the time you find out. Check it out. I'll see you guys soon. Maybe tonight, if they get to their decision soon. It is currently 3:33 p.m. in Vegas. I'll see you soon.